Wondering about e-commerce? Well, this tutorial covers all that you need to know about e-commerce. Here's a question. Have you ever bought or sold anything over the internet? Have you gone looking for information, opinions or reviews on a product or service you intend to buy over internet? Have you ever operated your bank account over the internet? E-commerce is all this and much, much more. E-commerce stands for electronic commerce. Simply put, e-commerce is buying and selling of products and services over the internet. Now let's look into how it all started. To understand the evolution of e-commerce, we have to understand the evolution of internet a little bit. How technology evolved to eventually be able to support e-commerce. Prior to 1960, business information, like order processing, was performed manually. That is, a buyer will manually raise a purchase order, and will fax or post it to the seller. The only problem with manual processing was that it took a long time. And then by 1960s, computers became prevalent. Businesses quickly adapted a technology called EDI, or electronic data interchange, which provided point-to-point linkage with various servers located at different businesses. EDI was one of the first forms of e-commerce. It worked on a very basic form of internet. While businesses were prompt to adapt computers, it is important to note that technologies like computers and internet were first developed for military. By 60s, US military had developed an internal networking system called ARPANET, which connected servers located at select cities. By 1971, a technology called TIP, or Terminal Interface Processor, got developed. This technology made it possible for other locations to dial into ARPANET. This, in more ways than many, was the beginning of Internet. But the greatest networking breakthrough came in 1982 when ARPANET switched over to TCP/IP, the same technology that powers the modern Internet. In essence, this technology made Internet safer and transfer of data more reliable. With all this, the demand for personal computers began to pick up. Individual users began to look for network solutions. In came CompuServe. Besides providing services like email, message board, chat rooms, it also had a section called Electronic Mall, where a user could directly make a purchase from any of the 110 registered online merchants. Unfortunately, the idea did not catch on, but it was the first example of e-commerce, as we know of today. By late 1980s, computers and networking has taken over the world. And then in 1997, the European scientific arm proposed the concept of World Wide Web. World Wide Web, or WWW, is a network of documents sitting on individual computers all over the globe that remain connected to each other through hyperlink. These set of documents or pages could be accessed from something called a browser. Suddenly every individual computer began to matter, and this proved to be the turning point. By now, World Wide Web, or WWW, boasts of over 3 trillion pages and counting. Anyways, by 1991, commercial businesses were granted permission to operate over the internet, paving way for e-commerce. Barely 4 years later, in July 1995, Jeff Bezos boxed up the first book ever sold on Amazon.com from his Seattle garage. Within its first 30 days of business, Amazon.com had sold books to online shoppers in all 50 US states and 45 countries. Around the same time, Pierre Omidyar, a software programmer, started coding a simple website he called Auction Web for selling used items. Omidyar posted a broken laser pointer to sell, and within a day, sold it to a collector for $14.83. Welcome to eBay.com. Clearly the e-tail revolution had begun. About a decade later, in 2004, e-commerce created its first major buzz in India when eBay.com took over Bazy.com, one of India's leading e-commerce portal of the time. In 2007, two friends Sakin and Binny Bansal joined hands and launched Flipkart.com, and in 2010 Snapdeal.com launched its operations. By 2014, Snapdeal.com was one of the 6 Indian e-commerce companies were valued over $1 billion.